Hey, what is up? Cale here. I am responding via video to a set of questions that was sent over by SadCookieCrips on Reddit. So I'm just going to record my answers, enjoy them, but they're also available for anybody else who's interested, I guess. I step in here to let you know that the answers that you're about to hear, the video you're about to see, is a whole lot longer than I anticipated it being because I don't know how to stop talking, I guess. But if you are curious in the content, do like the maybe over here or over here, wherever it is, the ×2, times 1.5 or whatever, and hear me talk real fast and get through a lot of information quickly. Hopefully it's helpful regardless. All right. The first question, what field do you work in as a project manager and how did you get there? Did the field come first or the profession? So my experience is in, marketing project management, video production project management, because I also call that a producer. Producer is such a wide term, though. Producer can refer to someone who makes a suggestion to a project or someone who pays some money to a project. Long story short, video production is what my formal education was in, is what my experience was in before that, and got myself into project management because I knew the video production process and leveraged that into more formalized project manager role with a advertising and marketing agency. So definitely the profession came first. The subject matter came first. But it was something that I was drawn to when I was kind of in the middle of that kind of stuff. It was something that I found kind of a skill at and moved forward with when I could have developed my skills in editing or in cinematography or that kind of stuff. That also came from, I'll attribute my broad education in film production. So I took classes and I have experience in editing and camera work and production design and screenwriting and XYZ. Therefore, I was able to kind of take a step back and look at the 30,000 foot view and see where things are happening, how things are supposed to happen, and help it move forward. What kind of person does it take to become a project manager? What qualities do others in your profession have? I think you were onto something with the first question. Did the field come first or the profession come first? There are people who the profession, the project manager comes first. Those people, the qualities that I see in those people are super attention to detail, capable of holding a lot of different sets of information in their mind at once. The project managers who I saw, like the great qualities that I saw in these project managers that I've worked with, is when someone comes by after a meeting or in the middle of a meeting and says, "Hey, that project 267493, where are you on that? We expected it yesterday." And they'd be able to, without looking at a lot of stuff, they'd be able to say, "Yes, I spoke to Johnny and he's running a little bit behind because he needs information from Lisa." And, to be able to draw that information out kind of intuitively from the data set in their mind, that's not an inherent skill that I have. It's one that I had to build up. And it's also one, like a muscle, it comes and goes with practice. For a while, I had a notebook, and at the beginning of every day before work started, I'd go through and write down all the projects that I was working on or was supposed to oversee or had information on, where they were, what issues came up. That way, when I passed someone in the hallway, they said, "Hey, what about, project 24601 or whatever?" And I make myself laugh sometimes. And instead of having to remember it, because that's not a skill that I have inherently, I was able to open my notebook to the right page and say, yes, here's the information that you're looking for. Other qualities that project managers have The good ones were able to motivate people without shame, guilt. There's a lot of tactics that I've seen of people getting work done or getting people to get work done that didn't produce the best quality work for the people they're working with. So it's easy when, the client asks for something, in a week, but it's supposed to take 2 weeks. Normally it would take 2 weeks. It's easy to turn to your team, in this case, the video team, the editors, the animators, and say, hey, I promised this in a week, so you have to get it done in a week. It's easy to say that. It's easy to do that. Sometimes it takes a little, mean eye to get them to do it. But what it does is it creates less quality work, because even if they stay, this is experience. I've talked to people and I've sat with people who've worked 24 hours a day for 2 or 3 days to get a project done, and the timeline that the project manager said it needed to get done in. And after 8 hours, of course, your mind starts going, much less after 24 hours or 3 days without sleep. So there's some negotiation skills in there to be able to talk to the production team or whoever you're managing, whoever's doing the projects that you're managing, and find out, how long it will take to do the project, or what assets are needed, or what information is needed. And there's always some negotiation, and there's always some back and forth and trade-off, but it is a conversation. It is a back and forth. It is taking information from multiple different parties and coming to a conclusion or a resolution based, deciding where the project should go. And, if the client wants it in a week and it's going to take 2 weeks to do, going to the team that's doing the project for you and saying, hey, this is what the client's asking for. They want it in a week. How long is it going to take to do the full project? Or what can we break down on this project to get them something in a week, to get them value in a week? So, yeah, some of that negotiation qualities. I think more importantly in project management or management in general, being a straight shooter is very important. That's going to depend on the company you're with. Some companies, everything is politics. Everything is, Johnny said, Lisa said, Joey said XYZ. And that's not always that makes things very difficult to get work done, to get value done. So identifying that in the company you're with, and sometimes, yeah, you just got to put up with the politics because you get to do what you want to do, or you get to pursue your passion, or they're paying you money, and that's the situation you're in. What training, knowledge, or experience has helped you fit into your role or become successful? For better or for worse, I don't have a PMI certification, Project Management Institute certification. They have a ton of them. I would highly recommend looking into that. Talk to people who have those certifications and figure out what it has helped them do, what it has helped them pursue, what concepts or frameworks or, what the benefit of it is. From what I understand, PMI certification is a beast. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes intentionality and focus. But if project management, quote, project management is what you want to do, it's really going to give you a boost in networking, in your resume, communicating or working with the local group, the local PMI chapter is a great way to network, is a great way to talk to people, to that kind of stuff. So the one thing that I have done that has helped me the most, the one resource, the one training piece, is the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This book is decades old at this time, written in a different era, but the core of the book is still extremely valuable. In short, the book talks about intrapersonal communication, intrapersonal dealings. So it's how to, I mean, the title says it, how to win friends and influence people, how to influence people to get them to understand where you're coming from, to want to do the things that will help you or help your project or help. And it's a lot of kind of short stories molded around a couple core concepts. Great book. Read it, listen to it, whatever. There is an updated version that came out a couple years ago. I mean, maybe 10 years ago at this point, that like how to win friends and influence people in the digital age, or like using email or something like that. I guess try it. Everything that I've read said just use the original. Sure, you're not going to be handwriting letters anymore. And especially in today's age, you're not going to be going to galas in person, maybe virtual, whatever. The concepts are there. That one really helped me, especially as, you know, I was in a situation where I had responsibility that I needed to take care of. And a lot of that responsibility relied on working with other people, needing to gather information from other people, or needing to get people to do things for my project. And the way that I was approaching it was very stuck up, snobby, not my best place. You know, I had worked myself up into a management role and thought that gave me, you know, the authority to tell people what to do. It doesn't. It's not a great way to try and work with people, because even if people are going to do what you're asking them to, because you're the manager or you're the project manager or whatever, they're going to give you not great quality products or work or effort. Yeah, it's not a great way to work with people. So, how to win friends, influence people. Next question. How does the way that you personally think about problems or tasks help you with your work? In other words, how does your brain work, and how does that align with your duties? That's a great question. I think there's a lot there. There's a lot of content there, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around the question and how I would answer it. I am an analytical, something about that word doesn't feel right in my mouth, analytical thinker. I look at causes and effects a lot. I look at sequence. I look at process. I love process. I love processes. So that's the way that I think about things. I grew up the son and grandson and nephew of a family full of mechanical engineers. So I have been thinking in that mindset, that engineering mindset, since as early as I can remember. And therefore, I take that into this work. I don't know if that's the best way to think through things as a project manager. That's how I do it. I think the way or how that aligns with my responsibilities and my duties on the job, it allows me to problem solve. And I think that's not something that I've talked about a whole lot here yet. Problem solving, identifying problems after they happen, even better as they're happening, and even better than that before they happen. Identifying problems and then identifying resolutions for those problems is key. And that is where my analytical thinking, my mechanical engineer brain comes in. So I can, see a sequence of things and identify, hey, last time when Marsha was assigned to this project and it took, on a Friday and she didn't start working until Monday, she completely missed the point of the project. Being able to find those patterns and be thinking analytical about it. So maybe I can request that she doesn't get assigned to the project till Monday. If she's not going to start till Monday and she forgets about it over the weekend, problem solved. Now, that may cause other problems, like she's now a day behind, or she doesn't have the full time to think about it, may cause, other issues. But that analytical thinking, identifying problems before they come up, either resolving the problems myself or working with others to resolve those problems. That's where Dale Carnegie's book comes in handy, because oftentimes I don't have the skills or the ability to solve those problems. The number of times that I've gone to, a director at the company, director level, not like a video director, but a director level person at the company. And, originally I would approach them and I'd say, hey, red flag, here's a red flag. Marcia just got assigned a project on a Friday. And I'd wait, and I'd see, what do we do? I'd ask, what do we do? And just kind of wait for their response or their ideas. And was taught, thankfully was taught, people don't want to solve your problems, especially, these higher up in the companies. But anyone really would rather you bring them solutions, and it's easier for them to choose between these solutions. Because I can bring that to, the director and say, Marcia, I got assigned a project on Friday. Can we hand it off on a Monday? Suggest that to the director. Be able to have the backup behind, the last 5 times she got assigned projects on Friday, she forgot about it on Monday and she delivered something that wasn't on point. And so bringing the solution to the director, the team, the manager, the whoever, can be very helpful, with that, bringing solutions to the experts, the people doing the project. If it's their area of expertise, be wary of that. If I went to my animators and I said, hey, without knowing about their area of expertise, and I went to the animators and I said, hey, this thing doesn't look right on the screen. I think your solution is to, I don't know, re-render using a different graphics engine or something, ridiculous. That drops their trust in my knowledge. That drops their trust in me presenting opportunities or solutions. So being able to process that, being able to have some understanding of what's going on over time, especially coming from that area of expertise, and then learning a lot and being willing to learn over time, I was able to bring solutions to my production team and say, hey, this frame glitched out. Last time it was the computer that we rendered it on always has trouble. Can we try rendering it on this other computer? For whatever reason, that seems to work. But having that knowledge and bringing a solution to them there is helpful. Analytical mindset for me is what's really helped. What's a normal day like, start to finish? What are the boring or frustrating tasks? What in a given day may turn into a bad day? And what are the highlights? Great questions. Normal day, especially as a project manager at a couple of different companies, the normal day was not, wasn't normal, but I can make up a day for you. I always found myself overly concerned with email. So get in, check the email from the night before, from the end of the day before, lay out a task list of things that I needed to take care of, follow up on, check in with people, get that status report of all my projects ready. So I had that for the day. Oftentimes in the last couple roles that I was in, the last couple organizations I was with, we had daily morning meetings, and that's an opportunity for me to bring that status report and discuss and check in with people and make sure, hey, yesterday you said you were here. Are you still here? Do you need some more time? Are you planning on hitting your deadline? Do we need to start talking to, the client, the customer, the management, to let them know, like, we're not going to hit these deadlines? All about troubleshooting, identifying those problems before they come up. So, morning meeting. After the morning meeting, catching up with individuals, because having those big, long, detailed conversations inside that morning meeting isn't super helpful. Catching up with a couple individuals, making sure that we're on the same page. Checking in with a couple of the production team who didn't quite have that, like, able to raise red flags yet mindset. And checking in with them and making sure, hey, how are things going on this project? How are things going on this other project? Are you blocked at all? Are there things that I can help you with, or I can, put into motion that are going to make your project easier? Checking in to make sure they have the assets, that kind of stuff. And through those conversations, kind of training these production team members to let them start thinking through that and say, I'm glad that you're bringing this up. I'm glad that we're having this conversation. Next time, I understand that this block came up 3 days ago. Next time this block comes up, hey, raise your hand, come over to my desk, shoot me an email, shoot me a text message, whatever, raise my attention for it. We all have blocks. We all get into these kind of binds that we can't move forward with the project. But the earlier, I can start helping you resolve that issue, the better. The easier it'll be staying on task, on target for these projects. And then, a day full of troubleshooting, a day full of tracking down information that's needed. I'd go to, the person I spoke to in the morning and they'd say, my block is I don't have the asset. And we talk about it and I'd figure out, the person to get the asset is our client liaison or whoever. So I'd go to the client liaison and I'd say, hey, we really need this asset for this project. And they'd say, well, the client doesn't know what the, file type that they need is. So I can request the asset as soon as I have that file type information. So then I'd have to go to, the content expert there and say, hey, we need the file type for this asset so that we can move forward with this project. And they'd say, yeah, that's great, but I need, the end where this video is being displayed at the end. Is it on a iPhone? Is it on a 4K monitor? That's really going to make a difference on what, so then taking that to the next person, client liaison or somebody else and saying, hey, I need this to get this, to get this, to get this. A lot of tracking stuff down. And that's stuff that as I'm learning is good sometimes to help train my production team to take those initiatives and start that chain of progress. At the same time, if I'm there to help problem solve issues and I have the bandwidth for it, the time of day to do those things, that's time that my production team member isn't running around. That's time that our subject matter expert isn't running around trying to chase down this stuff. That really depends on what the role is, how many projects are under your belt, under my belt. So what are the boring or frustrating tasks? Boring tasks for me were the like data entry, like making sure that our software system was up to date, who's done what and when they got it done and how long it took them and how many hours we have to charge to the client. What would make a given day turn into a bad day? Pressure from the top to deliver faster than feasible, or a big client with a set deadline and we run into problem after problem after problem after issue after issue. Ideally, you kind of set the deadline, the timeline, the scope of the project with the knowledge that you will run into problems, you will run into issues. So if, they ask for a 30-second animation with these assets, I could go to the animation team and say, how long would it take you to build out these assets and animate them for this project? And if they gave me, 3 days, I'd always added, 20%, knowing that it's going to take an extra 20% of time tracking down something or troubleshooting something. If we get it done early, great, we delivered early. If we run into the right number of issues, then we deliver on time. If we run into more issues than we expected, it happens, comparatively less than running into the right number of issues. Anyway, so projects bloating and expanding turned into bad days when people were very firm in knowing the right solution for something, or knowing how something's supposed to look or how it's supposed to act, and not valuing the experience of my production team. And that was a bad day, because the project would just inflate. They would be sitting there, telling my production team where to click the mouse, how to do things. And that would be a bad day for the project. That'd be a bad day for my team. That'd be a bad day for me, because I'm, trying to mitigate that happening. The highlights of a day, or of the project management kind of role, is troubleshooting. It sounds weird, strange. Troubleshooting issues, catching those issues before they come up. Being able to look back at a project and say, I worked my butt off on this project, but we delivered on time. We delivered exactly what the client wanted. All of my team worked well together. Clear communication. That's a super big highlight for me. I am personally of the mindset of the status that we work better together in collaboration with people than we do by ourselves. True, both directions, depending on the day. I think for the most part, it happens that way. All right, next question is, if you were interviewing someone for the job, what questions would you ask to figure out if they're a good fit? What answers would you look for? So and here's the thing, my experience is limited to the roles that I've had and the industries that I've been in. It would be essential for, if someone were in the producer, project manager for animation or video work, or even creative, I would really want them to know a little bit, at least, be familiar with that field, so they weren't coming in completely blind or learning. But I would be happy to overlook that for the sake of a great project manager. The questions that's a tough one. I would want to know about their experience. I'm getting a lot of questions as I'm doing interviews these days, and the ones that I think really explain the most to the interviewer is the tell me about questions. Tell me about a time when you succeeded on a project. Tell me about a time when you failed at a project, or failed in your interaction with someone, or failed delivering something on time. Those kind of experience questions. And as I say that, I recognize not everyone getting into project management has project management experience. The same way that, as I'm getting into Scrum, the Scrum Master, I don't have, the traditional Scrum experience, but there are a lot of ways that my experience applies to the role of Scrum Master, which for me, it's a natural progression from where I've been to where I'm going as a Scrum Master. And that's the kind of information that I'm curious about. If I asked a potential project manager, tell me about a time when, you succeeded on delivering product or delivering project to a client. They don't have traditional project management experience if they, were administrative assistant, right? Just making stuff up at this point. But they could tell me about a time when, they had to coordinate with someone, coordinate with other people, even if they were doing some of the work themselves, coordinating with other people, organizing a larger project, bigger than themselves. That's experience that applies directly to a project manager. I'd want to know about a time when they worked with a client, right? Especially if the project management role is at all client facing, I want to make sure that they know how to work with clients, that they are aware and have, some experience not losing clients, not disregarding clients' requests or needs, a little bit of customer service. So if they're an administrative assistant, and I say, tell me about a time when you had a difficult client to work with, and they could tell me about someone calling the front office, and they had to answer and deal with this difficult person on the phone. Even if it's at a restaurant or something, and someone's trying to get the menu, or someone's trying to get directions to the location, if they were willing, in my eyes, to put time and energy into listening and understanding the client, that's a plus. That's exactly where I want them to be. And if they did that as a hostess at a restaurant, and they said, well, there was this guy who called in, and he didn't understand where we were, or what kind of restaurant we were, or whatever, where we were. We'll take that as an example. And I had to sit on the phone with him and explain what buildings we were behind, and maybe even as he was driving to the restaurant, he kept making wrong turns, and I had to be patient with him because his experience with our company was in my hands. And if he didn't make it to the restaurant, or if he got, tired of trying to work with me, then he wouldn't have come. And that's lost a potential client or customer. Or if they're, sales in the retail industry, customers who are causing fusses all the time. And you're going to get that in the project management world as well. If you're client facing at all, you're going to get clients who are calling in and saying, hey, you promised this on this deadline, why isn't it here? Even better, you promised this on this deadline, now I need it in half that time. I need it 2 weeks early, or I need a month early, or whatever. And being able to sit down and talk with them and say, hey, look, I will do what I can to speed this up, but this stuff takes time. Quality work takes time. And identifying, solutions in that, it's troubleshooting. I'd love to hear about experience working with teams, the largest team you've worked with, or the smallest team you've worked with. And if that's, I would be okay hearing about a volunteer sports league or recreational sports league team who just wasn't working together, wasn't, communicating, or there was the star player on the team who couldn't get out of their own way to save the team, and how you work with that person to, get them on the team, or get them working as a team, as a group. For me, some of the technical stuff comes more secondhand. I can figure out a piece of software relatively quickly, aside from programming the software. And even that, I have a good understanding. Putting a new piece of project management software in front of me, I feel like I'm going to be pretty quick on picking it up. I know that's not where everyone is, so I'd want to know that, what software they'd worked with before, if any. And even if that's, the free, what's the Monday.com or Smartsheets or any of those that kind of give some kind of, reference to what it's like to work in project management or manage a team or something like that. I'd love to hear about that. I'd love to hear about framework that they've worked in. If it's waterfall, specifically agile, for the projects they've worked on, what kind of turnaround time, what's the timeline, what's the budget size. Like I said, I'd want someone who has some notion of the industry that they're in, because that gives you a little bit better clause when you're talking to the client. The client says, this is how things are, and you can say, no, it's not, it's really, this way, of course, saying it in a better fashion. Answers that I would look for in an interview is a lot of that experience and confidence in confidence that what they have done in the past, their past experience, applies to what role they're looking to do right now. And that's something that I had a lot of trouble processing and setting myself up for. I found myself with huge imposter syndrome, but that's not, imposter syndrome it's a valid feeling. It's not a valid state. Being an imposter in these kind of careers is not a state unless you have, 75% of the people you talk to say, yeah, you gotta check yourself. So yeah, it's confidence in their experience, their past experience, and how it applies to the role that they're looking for. That's all the questions that I have in front of me. This response took a whole lot longer than I thought it would, but also I don't have a good way to gauge if I've given enough information on a question or if I need to give more. So if you have additional questions or further information that you're looking for, reach out, leave a comment or shoot me an email or whatever. Hopefully this helps you in your project management journey. All right, take care.